speaker. He's coming from New Delhi in India directly to the world today. And I'm talking about Ashish Nigam. Ashish, if you could please turn on your camera so that the audience can see you. There we have Ashish. Ashish is a chemical engineer and MBA with more than 25 years of experience in business transformation for process reengineering, digital innovation, and management strategies for infrastructure, financial, and government organizations. In his current role of CIO and CTO, Ashish is responsible for operational excellence for technology and digital innovation, besides performing the duties of IT strategy, cybersecurity, technology deployment, and aligning technology with business strategy. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're in great hands here, a true global leader of financial services, technology, and implementation. I'm going to leave you the capable hands of Mr. Ashish Nigam. Thank you so much, Ashish, for sharing your expertise with our global audience today.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me such a nice introduction. See, in all the technology role that the CIOs play in the financial institutions are largely to have the systems in place in order for supporting the management and supporting the customers and the clients in supporting the business that they do. However, we have to actually understand that in the financial organization or in the financial setup, there are various kinds of risks that the organization face, and the risks in a regulated environment, because finance is a sector where regulators keep a very tight vigil on it. The organizations not only face internal challenges but also are obligated for the external regulatory environment. It's also important to look at the convenience of the customers and the convenience of the stakeholders while you do this kind of IT setup or IT-based performance or IT-based delivery. In a finance organization, particularly when you deal with very large amount of money, when you deal with very large ticket size, then this becomes multifold. I'm going to talk about how technology should be used for integrated risk management. A lot of organizations I've seen and I've worked and interacted, I found that it is done in a very siloed manner. When we say siloed manner, it means that there's an IT department, they are busy doing the risk for the IT department. There's a finance department, there's a treasury department, there's a credit department, there's a credit monitoring department, whatsoever. They could be, depending on the hierarchy and the structure of the company, there could be various departments, various locations, various geographies. However, how many of them think that okay, they should have integrated risk management? They have humongous amount of data within the organization or within the ecosystem. How do you use that data in an intelligent manner? When I say integrated risk management, we actually talk about setup that the organization should prepare for in having this enterprise-wide risk management. So I would like to actually tell you the organizations are faced with various kinds of risks, be it IT, enterprise, third party, audit, public sector, regulatory, business resiliency, and all it's a multi-dimensional, and obviously the role of a financial institution is that they should encompass enterprise risk management framework for all the department, for all the areas. If you think that okay, you are comfortable in managing on a silo level basis, you will always be dependent on people. You will always be dependent on some kind of department organization who will who will perhaps give their version, and that will be presented to the management, or maybe some reports that are generated out of through various technology solutions, which could be, there could be many solutions within the organization, depending on the um, type of organization, financial type of organization it is. So how do you bring that intelligence, how do you bring um, that integrated approach, is something the organizations all over the financial sector should think about. This is something which I see that is a great vacuum at the moment. Not many organizations would actually have this kind of mindset or even the strategy. So that is why the senior management, the top leadership should actually have a multi-dimensional strategy for the risk management. When you can actually move into this kind of framework, so you can actually take this advantage of the resilience through the systems, the resilience that comes from the integrated approach, and you can actually have your business outcomes in a much better manner, in the sense of how better you can prepare the organization to manage the risk, to see the risk, perceive the risk, and let the stakeholders also understand that kind of risk platform. So I wanted to talk about that how do you bring that visibility. Now, obviously, each department would prepare its own risk control. Uh, so, does it mean that the organization do not have any kind of control mechanism? Yes, they do. But get into a kind of platform or a kind of solution or kind of strategy that you have one framework, only one common framework. Now I'll get into the details. I've not covered it into the slide. It was getting too difficult to put it in slides or something like that, because I'm a person of doing things, not making the PowerPoint presentations, or not making a lot of such kind of graphs or something like that. So this is something like that. Okay, you consolidate the risk data from across the organization and use risk analytics to provide a comprehensive and integrated picture of risk. This is something which is really missing in most of the organization, financial organization, be it banks, be it non-banking financial companies, NBFCs, or maybe the aggregators of the finance sectors. So this is my point to mention over here. How do you actually then and then once you have this, then you would actually like to see that the organization should leverage this kind of platform to improve efficiency. When we talk about this improving efficiency, it is basically to streamline and automate a wide variety of governance, risk, and compliance processes. When you talk about governance, obviously you have a setup in the entire organization, spread across the organization. You just map all those things into the responsibility areas onto a kind of platform with respect to the risk and the compliance processes. Now this is the most difficult part. Now people want to take this exercise just because it is a fancy thing, or it is something that other organizations are also doing. Must understand that most of the organizations have failed in getting into an enterprise risk management framework. Most of the finance organizations, because they may be very good in doing their financing part, or maybe doing the due diligence part, or maybe operational risk or credit risk or all that thing. But when you make a comprehensive integrated framework, and then you plan what you know, how all the risks, all the compliances, how the registers, how the probability of risk is defined into the system and given to the top management or given to the regulator, or even in fact you can uh, manage all it for the for the uh, for the good governance, for the best practices. So so then obviously then you can actually have a better decision making. You need to accelerate, and most of the times whenever you have when you face the risk, and you also need to have the accountability for the risk. When you say that you have to define the accountability, then the solution that you are actually looking at, let me tell you, a lot of organizations will just talk about the solution. A lot of organizations will talk only about the IT, but this solution has to be driven with a strategy, with the defining of what risk you need to cover, what are the registers that you need to make, and what are the compliances that you have to actually adhere to, be it internal policies or be it regulatory requirements. So the platforms must be able to enable the organization drive to a strong culture of risk management across all the departments, across the geographies, by clear accountability to frontline managers. Now, when we say that clear accountability to frontline manager, it doesn't mean that they do not have any kind of frontline accountability with them. They all do have, they all do in silos, but it is not done in a platform, in an integrated manner, so that this is visible to the senior management, this is visible to the stakeholder, this is visible to the board, that how the organization is taking care of these things. So I would like to talk about these operational and risk management over here. At the same time, it is important to understand that when we talk about these operations and this risk management, then basically what I think there's a screen. This is paused. Just pausing screen sharing. Screen sharing is now paused.
On our side here, Ashish, you can see the slide that says audit management at the third line. So there's enterprise and operational risk management, third-party governance, and audit management. We continue to see your presentation.
All right. So you can see the screen, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
See, I'm sure making changes and we're not able to see on this end. If you move slides, let me know and I'll give you feedback.
Is the screen visible? Is the slide visible?
There is a slide visible here, but I don't know if you pause the presentation on your end. If you did that on the interface, we would only see a single slide no matter what you do on your side. So can you move your slide for me once, just to make sure I can see your slide move?
Can you?
No, I was not able to. So you must have paused the presentation on the interface. So if you could please go under the sharing tab on the GoToWebinar interface and hit the button that says show screen to unpause your presentation, because right now we do not see the updates on your slides. If you find the GoToWebinar interface and on the sharing tab, there is a big button there that says show screen. Yeah, we can see that now. And if you can put on presentation mode and go to the slide that you were at previously, yeah, that was the one that we last saw. Perfect.
All right. Is it okay?
Again,
Is
we
it
can
okay?
see it, but we are not able to see if you're moving the slide because in our end it's static
All
right now.
right.
If you want to
See,
test moving the slide, let me know.
in the interest of explaining these things, I can let the slide be there. I don't need to talk about. I can just tell about what do I mean over here when we say these enterprise and operational risk management. See,
Okay.
the beauty is in the definition of over here, operational and risk management, is that the organization should not jump into any kind of solution without the strategic thinking, without the strategic direction. That's what the first slide and the first sentence said, that okay, this is a strategic direction that the multi-stakeholder, a multi-dimensional strategy that the organization. So see, how do you have to go ahead from the silos of data or silos of risk management to an enterprise level? Now, this is something that all the organization should learn and should think, that for all the departments, they should go talk to them, identify the critical processes or maybe the critical activity. I have been actually seeing your presentations, these live seminars, for past about today and yesterday. I saw this. There've been a lot of focus on the processes, activities, and data and all those things. Yes, that's the first thing that the any financial organization should do about it. But you have a critical view of all the activities, document them for each department, identify how many departments are there. Obviously, any financial institution would know that. Just list them. Let's say you start with a treasury department. That's, let's say, first department, or maybe the second is the due diligence department, and third is a operational risk department, and so on and so forth, maybe the legal department or whatever department. For each department, just list down all the critical processes and activities. That is very simple, because the organization, the department know what are the activities that they do. Just list all of them. After doing that, for each of the activity, get into identification of what could disrupt this my activity, what could be the disruptive event. Now, this is something again you have to talk to, or to discuss, and to write about it. So this becomes a kind of framework. When you talk about the framework, and this is what we are saying over here, enterprise and operational risk management, bring together data from siloed risk repositories. Siloed risk repositories is obviously one department. Finance department, we cannot assume in today's world, when there's so much of fraud and all those things are there, that they would not have. They would surely have. But what the point I'm saying is that bring it into one common platform. How do you do it? Obviously, from department, identify, list down all the business processes. With each of the processes that the organization is doing, once you document them, go into identifying what could be the disruptive events. There are various ways to do that, but then I'm not getting into that. Further than that, for each of this event, you can get into a kind of threat perception, that what is the threat perception to this. But you can, when you say that this is the threat, or what are the threats, maybe something that uh, certain operating procedures are not being followed. Even, let's say, for example, all right. So operating procedures are basically defined by the organization, or maybe defined by the board, or defined by certain regions, or whatever it is. That's just a threat. right? It may not be there. Go into the business of doing what is the likelihood. Some regions may do it in a better manner, some regions may not do it in a better manner. So have your platform with such features. When you get into the likelihood, so if something is let's say that the likelihood is very less, but the impact of that likelihood, of that risk, of that threat could be very high. So then you assess into, then you get into the business of getting the threat value. Now this is the most important part. The organization should be able to derive this. When you do derive that, okay, this is the threat value. Now I tell you, I repeat over here, a threat value is something that is the product of threat likelihood and threat impact. So when we say threat likelihood, then you obviously you have identified the threat to a disruptive event. So just for the sake of repetition, you have noted down the department, all the department. When you go from department A to department B, you actually note down all the critical processes. When I say processes, you mean the activities or whatever you may call it. For all of them, you will identify, for each of them, you will actually identify the events, disruptive events that could be there. From there, you move into the threat, threat likelihood, threat impact, and threat value. Now, this becomes the key thing. We are not looking at IT guys per se. We are looking at the risk management over IT. Now, not only for the IT department. You use the technology to get into identification of threat value. For each, in a finance organization, if I were to look at, I would say that there could be about 1,000 threat values. So, I mean, 1,000 disruptive events. I I mean, taking all the department or all the entire organization into consideration, then you would get into the threat value for each of them. Now, how are you taking control of that? Are you doing a recovery model? Are you doing a preventive model? Are you getting into the detection model? So now here it becomes important that the organization should have uh, should have visibility for the senior management, that what is the way, what is the strategy to actually address that threat. What are the controls that you have actually kind of built in, whether the controls are doing some recovery or prevent or detection. So this is the key point which I was actually telling, because I've gone through this experience in my life of 25 years, that this is something the organizations are missing. They are doing it in a very siloed level, maybe only for one department. They may be doing it for two departments, but this is not visible to senior management. Absolutely not. Nobody knows it. What is going on in the company when the entire risk are being seen. So finally, when you do this, then you also get to know what is your level of risk. When you say that you have done this, you will actually define maybe in the low category or maybe very low, high, medium, moderate. That depends on the organization, how whichever way you want to define the risk level. So this will actually come when you do this kind of threat value, and then you get into this risk value, risk level. So this risk level decides the position of the organization, that how they are placed in managing the enterprise wide risk. I am not talking, that's why we are not, the focus has always been on the enterprise risk, or maybe audit risk, or maybe an IT risk, or whatever it is. But this is what the organization should be talking about. This is very difficult, but unless you take a holistic view, unless you use the platform with you may have to think about what platform are they. That is why you you need this kind of an environment. And wherever you go in the industry, you talk to fellow IT guys, or you even talk to various vendors. Vendors will come, boss, I have a nice solution. Now, the solution may come, but what about the risk? What about the identification of the risk? Do you have the risk registers? Do you have the likelihood occurrence of this? Do you have the impact of the risk? Do you have the um, controls for it, whether it is preventive, detective, or whichever way it is? This is nobody would talk about it. You talk about the greatest consultants, the big fours of the world, or whoever. I don't want to name them. Whichever, whoever. That is why the the organization or the top management should take holistic view that how their risk will be uh, addressed. I don't know what is happening to the slide. Is my slide okay? Is my slide being can be seen? I
Ashish,
just
it's
changed
still
it.
on the same slide that says audit management as the very last one. So it was on that one. Yeah, now I
Are
see
you?
top accountability for risk and best practice approach.
Oh, all right. Okay. So it means that my slides are moving. Right. Okay. So when I was saying that okay, you have this enterprise and operational risk management, third party governance, audit management. These are the areas, right? Most of the organizations have more critical activities outsourced. Now, when I have outsourced to third party, let's say my credit card operations is it's outsourced to somebody else, or uh, my monitoring activity is outsourced to somebody else. So these are third party. Obviously, I'm not saying the organizations all over the world or the financial organization, the best of the organizations will not have these controls. They will all have, but they are all siloed. They are all in um, with the head of the department, or maybe the region head, whoever it is. But do you have a strategy that can bring on a common framework or the enterprise level thing? This is very few leaders do it. This is something view that leaders need to have. And I actually wanted to say that the be it regulatory and corporate, be it integrated risk management or resiliency, the business resiliency, this is over here, the regulatory. And so this is what I wanted to talk about it. And when we say that that this is it, when we say that that the organizations need to have multidimensional and senior management involvement, only then this will happen. Otherwise, the organizations will be in a very relaxed position. They will not be keen to have an integrated approach. And this is it, whichever it is. So when we take over enterprise and operations, a lot of departments, a lot of geographies, a lot of branches, a lot of areas are covered over here. Obviously, when you have third party, you have audit, you have public sector, you have regulatory, and obviously the IT being the, the driver, the business driver. So Joseph, this was all I wanted to talk about, and I would like to focus on that the IT department needs to actually shed its traditional role of maybe managing the network or managing devices or the servers, or operationalizing maybe something on cloud, data flow, and all those things. These are some of the things that can be outsourced. However, what cannot be outsourced are uh, your management of risk or identification of the risk. So bring management, bring the risk-based approach and technology, and obviously the senior leadership, that's a strategic intent together. Get all of them married. Make it a polygamous approach. Right? Not just one person and the other person are getting married. It's a multi-party marriage. Now this is my mantra for success in managing the risk. Otherwise, you are um, just doing an island-based approach. Each of them are doing in island. Now, what is the fun in doing the integrated thing? Because you can help organizations save the cost that may come from regulator, or maybe mm, the financial risk or the frauds, all those things. A lot of people have been talking. I've been hearing there artificial intelligence. People have been talking about the machine learning. Now, what are they going to do with that machine or the artificial intelligence when you do not have your own environment which can throw that data, use that data? So first things first. First thing what I wanted to talk about was that a strategy, high level strategy at the board level or the senior leadership at the business level, and then get going into identifying individual risk on a common platform and then defining it. You can have wonderful uh, visuals maybe at the dashboard level that the organization need to uh, prioritize and decide what kind of dashboard that they want, and whoever wants it. You can give it to the region heads, from the head of the department, the functional head, or maybe whoever. Let them have this kind of complete visibility on a platform. It is not person dependent. It is not individual dependent. It is the organization. So big organization, I'm going to talk about that. They perhaps do not take this view when they decide their risk or the risk framework. This is it. So this is what I wanted to talk about in an using intelligence. You create your own data and the repository from various silos and have the intelligence on all the three aspects: risk, compliance, and the governance. And the life is far organized after that. So this is it.
Excellent, excellent, Ashish. So we have some time, have about 5 minutes here for audience questions. I'm gonna ask you to stop showing your screen to the audience so that I can come back with my camera. Perfect, perfect. And there are a number of comments that have come up during your presentation and questions. The very first one is related to governance. What does the governance for a sound enterprise risk management look like? And specifically, the question is not, is governance related to the implementation in the company of a sound enterprise risk management process and program like you described? What are the key roles and responsibilities look like? What type of governance is necessary for this approach to work well?
See, the governance over here is the senior leadership defining how they want to look at the enterprise level risk. Now, this cannot be done with a just by wishing it. Okay, I want to see my risk in Asia region. I want to see my risk in only one country or maybe within one department. Uh, so this needs to be prioritized and defined. When you are talk about that, okay, what is that level of governance? The governance is including all the senior leaders, including all the regional heads or the department heads. Let them prioritize, let them define, let them accept, let them come forward and say that we want this. Unless you say that we want this, how will you actually get going in defining on an integrated platform? They all are happy. Okay, this is good for me. I have these things. I have all the consultants coming from you know, McKinsey's and all those guys. That's very good. But integrate enterprise. Why? You're getting the point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the other question that has come up, it has to do with the implementation of the systems. Is this enterprise risk management model something that you're implementing at PTC Financial Services, but also in recommending and supporting perhaps with your clients in the energy and infrastructure space?
Give me a minute. I'll just put in this a charger.
All right.
All right. Can
All
you
right.
come up
We
with
have
the question
power.
once again?
And the next question is related to energy and infrastructure. So this is a good segue here. Does the approaches that you talked about here, something that you use internally at PTC Financial Services and also recommend to your clients? I know you do a lot of work with clients in the energy and infrastructure sector. So curious about your recommendation on if you use these approaches with clients and also internally in the organization.
Um, See, first things first, we do it for the organization, for our own company, right? Uh, my clients are basically my borrowers, right? Whom I lend to, right? If I am a financial organization, so my clients are basically the borrowers, whatever size they may be, right? Small to bigger or bigger. That doesn't really matter. For me, that is not on this. This is a very internal looking. However, we can actually go into their systems and get data, that the data which we want to actually monitor their let's say revenue. If we are giving certain loan which is linked to their revenue and which will help them to repay back that debt that they take, so that's a kind of monitoring mechanism. That is the control system that you built, how to look at your credit monitoring, right? Not the risk thing. So these are the risks which are internal, external, compliance related, operational risk, and all those things. You have to look at the liquidity risk also, isn't that? So all those things is something. First thing first, we do it for our own internal setup, and we don't recommend this to be being implemented in other organizations. That is something that we don't. However, we would like to have some kind of mechanisms that can monitor my clients, that is my borrower, for the purpose of repayment capacity
Very, very
capabilities.
well. Ashish, we are just on our time right now. I want to thank you on behalf of our global audience for discussing this important topic of bringing intelligence on regulatory compliance and risk management. I know how late it is right now in Delhi. It's like 10:15 p.m. Delhi time, and you're here with us sharing your expertise. Thank you for your generosity and sharing your expertise with our global audience today.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody. Right.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ashish Nigam, Chief Information Officer and Chief Technology Officer for PTC Financial Services, directly from Delhi in India to the world. I am going to turn off your camera now, Ashish, so if you forgive me here for a moment. Perfect. So this brings us to our final presentation of day 2 of the BTOES Financial Services Live 3-day conference. Tomorrow, we are going to wrap up with tremendous presentations from global leaders, cross-industry leaders of financial services, excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformations. We're going to kick off coming directly from the United Kingdom with Tim Widget, who is the head of performance for Exceed. The team has presented in our conferences before. He provides an incredible amount of expertise and leadership. He was a captain at the UK Royal Marines before completing his MBA in Cape Town, South Africa, and he leads performance improvement and innovation for cross-industry organizations that are going through meaningful transformations, and he's going to share his expertise with us tomorrow at the very first session. Tim will be followed by another great leader of improvements and innovations and focus on the financial services sector, and that's Rios Atar, former Vice President of Transformation, Integration, Project Management, and Continuous Improvement at Caesars Entertainment in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Rios is going to talk about enabling growth while protecting stakeholders. And we're going to wrap up the day tomorrow with an incredible trio. We're going to have 3 global leaders, Jim DeVries, Carol C. Bunovich, and Dr. Bülent Juvenaker, from talking about harnessing digital artificial intelligence infused operational excellence for financial services. So this will be a 3-way presentation bringing the perspectives of artificial intelligence in operational excellence for financial services. Wonderful presentations with cross-industry global leaders who are practitioners of what they talk about. They just didn't write a book on the theory. They are practitioners on how it's done. So in the meantime, if between today and when we restart tomorrow, check out the LinkedIn where we have questions and answers and commentary from our participants. Thank our speakers, our sponsors, ask additional questions that have not been answered here live. You can go and look for the LinkedIn announcement under my name on LinkedIn, and you're going to see the BTOES Financial Services Live posting with the questions and answers on LinkedIn. So for now, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to see you tomorrow here in the same channel for the final and 3rd day of BTOES Financial Services Live. Thank you, everyone.